The sun was just coming up over the horizon, looking over Long Island and all of its secrets. Gatsby and I decided to open the rest of the windows of Gatsby's mansion and let the light into the melancholy, empty house. The sweet song of birds floating in along with the shadow of a nearby tree landing on the soft ground. For a moment, the world felt still, at peace, as if nothing had happened that night or ever at all.
I don't believe she ever loved Tom. Gatsby spoke suddenly, breaking the quiet, content moment, and turned to me with a determined look across his face. Keep in mind, old sport, Daisy was very anxious yesterday while Tom was there. He made her feel nervous, and the things he said to her were making her become a mess, and made me look like the bad guy, causing her to break under pressure and cry out things she didn't mean. Paused to sit down, reconsidering what he had just said, and looked back out the window. Of course, though, she might have loved him once, like the day of their marriage, but even then, she loved me more than anyone. Do you understand, Nick? He then said something rather confusing. In any case, it was just personal. To me, it did. What was that supposed to mean? More so, what can someone say to something like that? Unless you thought he was obsessed and didn't realize he was a madman. While he had returned from his time in the war, Daisy had already moved on and married Tom, continuing her life from there, without Gatsby in it, and he tried to overcome this feeling by traveling to Louisville with the last of his money. He walked the streets for a week in November, revisiting the places he knew, the places that hold a memory of him and Daisy driving around together in her white car. Her house was always full of more secrets and wonders than he could count, and realized that the city was just the same way, just like Daisy, but with a touch of that beauty missing from it. In spite, he left and traveled desperately hoping, trying to find his one and only love. But he couldn't travel as well as he'd liked, because his pockets were now empty. And as he would wait at the station, he would get these visions, these illusions of seeing her in the cars and people that passed by. He waited till the end of the day, frantically trying to catch even just as much as the air she breathed, hoping he could hold on to it for as long as he liked, but it would simply just vanish in his hands before he could even realize he had it, losing her once again to the world. By the time we had our fill of breakfast, it was 9 in the morning. As we stood on the porch and watched the clouds, the boats, the distant cars, and the world on East Egg pass by, Gatsby's last servant he had not sent away, his gardener, approached us and stopped at the bottom of the steps. Fall is coming soon, and I must drain the pool today so it won't fill with leaves and freeze the pipes in the winter, sir. Please, wait another day. Come back later to drain it then. Gatsby said calmly to the gardener before taking his eyes off the green light at the end of Daisy's dock to look at me with a sorry look on his face. It's funny, old sport. I had that pool open all summer with many different people in it, but I myself have not even stepped one toe in it. I knew he was going to ask me if I wanted to join him, but I got up a little quick as I realized the time on the face of my watch. I do apologize, but I have to leave to catch my train for work. I didn't really want to leave Gatsby. I wanted to be able to chat with him more, but I felt I also needed time to ponder some things about what he told me. I will try to call you up to continue our conversation later, I said with a reassuring smile. Please do, old sport. I enjoy our little chats together, he returned with a smile. Allow me to walk you out. We got up from the porch chairs, ending our peaceful moment looking out across the bay and our conversation, and took our time walking to the front, letting the feeling drag on out as much as possible. I hope Daisy calls too. I do wish to speak with her. He looked at me with a hopeful look, that look of hope you see when a doctor has said that a loved one who was very sick might have a chance to get better. I hesitated from speaking, and I turned away from Gatsby's pleading eyes until we reached the front of his house. Finally, I turned back to Gatsby and spoke with a heavy heart. I don't think she will call you. Gatsby turned to me with a confused look on his face. What do you mean by that, old sport? She has to call me. He sounded like he was almost begging me to make her call him. Jay, you need to let her go. I looked into his deep eyes and felt sorry to be the one to tell this to him, from his only true friend. You need to move on, just like she has. You had your chance with her, and now it's gone. You can't keep holding on to an unchangeable reality. You can't repeat the past, Jay. We paused, staring at each other as the sound of waves and cars filled the silence. Gatsby looked down at his feet, taking in what I just said to him. Then he looked back up at his manor, into the empty rooms, I assume imagining all the different people that had entered his home. Then he turned back to East Egg, to the green light, thinking about his time with Daisy, the laughter they shared, the moments they lived, and the feelings they felt. After a minute, he turned back to me, tears on the verge of spilling over, and managed to get only one thing out. I will always love you, Nick. That was the last thing he said to me as I took my leave, but not before turning back to see him standing there, wiping tears from his eyes as they stared at that green light.